It's okay to start. Is everyone okay? Anyone need time?
Is
All right.
Cupertino here?
Do we have quorum?
Yes, we do. We have Commissioner Capillo, Vice Chair Scharf, and yourself, Chair Wong.
Okay, so we do have quorum. Okay,
And,
cool.
and Commissioner Saxena did let me know that he would not be available tonight.
Oh, he's not able to make it now. Yeah, he did say that. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's call this meeting to order. I'm going to hit start. You guys are ready? All right. 3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the June 22nd meeting of the Cupertino Planning Commission. Welcome. So, in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order number 2990, this will be a teleconference meeting without a physical location to help stop the spread of COVID-19. I'm just letting folks know that. And then members of the public wishing to observe the meeting can do so. You guys are following online. And so we'll start with that. So let's hand it over to you, Abby. Let's do a call to order and a roll call.
Commissioner Capillo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Scharf?
Present.
Chair Wong?
Here.
Commissioner Saxena? And Commissioner Matipatla are both absent.
Okay, no problem. Well, welcome everybody. Let's start with our approval of minutes. And I believe the subject is our draft minutes of May 25th, 2021. Recommendation is approve or modify the draft minutes. Let's take some time to look at it as a team. And then of course, anybody who wants to make a motion, please do so.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft minutes.
I will happily second it. Any comments? Discussion? Okay, let's do the honors. Let's put a vote to the minutes. All right, turn it back to Abby.
Commissioner Capillo?
Yes, I approve.
Vice Chair Scharf?
Aye.
Chair Wong?
Aye.
It's 3-0,
Okay.
2 absent.
3-0-2. Very, very cool. Okay, before we begin, we're going to do oral communications. And as you all know, and for a refresher, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter within the jurisdiction of the commission and not on the agenda. We've got 3 minutes. You'll see a timer on there. And then in most cases, state law will prohibit the commission from making any decisions with respect to a matter not on the agenda. So let's see if we've got any from our audience. Okay, I see Rhoda Fry, Lisa Warren. So we'll start with Rhoda. So let's bring Rhoda on. Rhoda, if you can unmute yourself, and if someone can bring her on in, that would be great. Okay, I don't hear from Rhoda yet, but we'll come back to her if we catch her on the next round. Lisa, the floor is yours. Unmute yourself and hopefully we can get you in. I get hit allow to talk. I will do that. So Lisa, let's see if you can mute yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I did it the old way too, but here I am. Hi. So just a quick comment. I'm aware that we have a new interim city manager coming in quickly and a new city attorney. And I just would like to put a bug in your ear that anytime there's something really big coming up that maybe we're rehashing something else in the future before they're on board, if we could consider waiting for big decisions to be made until we have our new people in place. That's it.
Oh, nothing else to add? Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa. All right, I will bring on Rhoda. Oh, just lost Rhoda there. Anyone see her? Okay.
Yeah, she's back.
Sorry, Rhoda. She's back? All right,
Yeah.
Cool. I'll hit this button. All right, Rhoda, if you unmute yourself, hopefully you should be able to hear us and we can hear you. Let's see.
Oh, she did for a second and then she muted herself again.
All right.
Yay. Welcome, Rhoda.
All right, we can
Thank
hear
you.
you. Welcome.
I was like, how do I mute myself? There wasn't any pop-up. Good evening. So today at the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, there was a unanimous vote for the county and the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District to investigate sharing oversight of our ridgeline, our protected ridgeline between the quarry and Rancho San Antonio. So that was very exciting. This Thursday, another quarry item, the Santa Clara County Planning Department and actually the city of Cupertino has concurred that Stevens Creek, for Stevens Creek to import mined materials from Lehigh is not a mining activity, and it is not an incidental activity. And it would in fact be I wasn't planning on talking today, so I'm a little tongue-tied. It would be considered a industrial activity. And as it turns out, industrial activities are not permitted in hillside zones. So that decision is coming up at the Planning Commission this Thursday in Santa Clara County. The decision is a zoning decision, and it would be quite consequential to the citizens of Cupertino, because what it would do is it essentially would allow Stevens Creek Quarry to continue to run the permitted 1,300 trucks per day for the foreseeable future. You know, there looks like 30 years or so. And in fact, it appears right now that they're running out of materials. So importing materials means that there's no reclamation, which means converting the quarry to a secondary beneficial use. And if you go to Vasona Park or the Quarry Park in Saratoga or the Quicksilver Almaden, all of those places had been quarries in our valley. And actually Communications Hill in San Jose is a housing development that also been a quarry. So quarries eventually run out of materials, and then they get turned into something else. And Stevens Creek Quarry evidently wants to continue running industrial operations forever. So please keep an eye on that one, and I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. I appreciate it. Thank you for your input. Okay, I don't see, I see anyone else here? Nope, I don't see any other folks. You can push the button for raise hand if you've got any items that you want to put into oral communications. Going once, going twice. All right, we're ending oral communications, and we'll move on to any kind of items on a consent calendar. I don't think there's anything there. Do we have any written communications as well?
The written communications received prior to the meeting have been forwarded to you, Chair Wong. Abby, is there anything new that came in right now?
No.
Okay, got nothing on there. All right, well, let's move to item number 2.
I'm sorry, Chair Wong. I just received an email just now.
Okay,
For, support. Do I just forward this to you?
I think, Abby, you can, this is for the Westport project?
Yes, it just came in.
we'll
So
keep
you-
it for item number 2.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll keep it for item number 2. It's not for oral communications, but let's include that when we get to item number 2. So, okay. Moving on, item number 2. Public hearings.
Wong, if I may interrupt, I'm sorry. We did receive one more email. And Erica, if you wouldn't mind, please letting us know which email that was.
Sure. I emailed it to you and Abby, and I can email it to anyone else as well.
Thank you, Erica.
It's for item number 3.
So we'll hold up to that for that item.
Okay, let's get that for that. Thank you. We're getting real-time communications. So great job, everybody. So let's go to item number 2. So subject, vesting tentative map to replace a previously approved vesting tentative map, TM 2018-03, for the Westport Cupertino development project to create a separate parcel for the age-restricted senior below market rate building. City approval would be a vesting tentative map, application number TM 2021-002. The applicant is KT Urban, Mark Tersini, located 21267 Stevens Creek Boulevard. The recommended action that the Planning Commission, I'll read that. We're missing a verb, but the Planning Commission, the public hearing, and recommend that the City Council hold a public hearing and recommend that the City Council find one, approve the application per the draft resolution, tentative City Council hearing date, July 20, 2021. So I think that's what the intention was. So yeah, let's staff report. What do we have, Pew?
Sure, Chair Wong, I would like to introduce John Matier, who will present the project. And I just did want to clarify, the recommended action from the staff report is that the Planning Commission consider the evidence presented and determine whether the project can be recommended for approval in accordance with the draft resolution. And I believe John has a few updates to that as well. So John, take it away.
Thank you, Pew. John Martier, City of Cupertino's senior planner with the City of Cupertino's planning division. I'm here to present the Westport Development application TM 2021-002. Let me just share my screen really quick. All right, let me know if you have trouble seeing that. Everybody good?
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so the subject again is to consider recommending approval of a vesting tentative map to replace a previously approved vesting tentative map TM 2018-03 for the Westport Cupertino development project to create a separate parcel for the age-restricted senior below market rate building. City approval will be a vesting tentative map. Again, the Planning Commission is the recommending body, with City Council being the final approval body on this application. Real quick overview of the project overall. The project location is on the north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, with Mary Avenue on the east, and then meandering towards the north, with 85 to the west. It's surrounded by mixed uses with park uses. It's in various civic uses to the east, including Memorial Park, the Sports Center, and the Senior Center. High-density housing, the Glenbrook Apartments to the north, and De Anza College to the south. It's within the heart of the city's Pacific Plan area, and it's part of the Opus Gateway. So just to go over what was approved on August 18th, 2020 by City Council. What we have is a mixture of housing types, where we have Building 1, which is 131 unit senior mixed use and with 27 memory care rooms, and about a little over 17,000 square feet of retail as well on the bottom floor. Building 2, which is 48 unit BMR senior mixed use building. It's got a little over 2,000 square feet on the bottom floor as well for commercial. And then towards the western half, you have 70 townhome condominiums as well as 18 row house condominiums. So a little bit about the project data. So you have 2 residential commercial buildings on the eastern half of the site, which is Building 1, the 6-story building with 167 senior residential units, 27 memory care licensed assisted living residents. I think that should say 131. I apologize about that. With the 17,600 square feet of ground floor retail commercial space. Again, Building 2. So we talk about Building 1, Building 2. We're talking about Building 1 is basically the non-BMR building, where Building 2 is the BMR building. And then we talked about the townhomes and row houses on the western edge. So what else is approved on August 18th, 2020 was a vesting tentative map. What this did was create 2 parcels on the site. Parcel A, which is 4.7 acres, which had the townhomes and row houses, and Parcel B, which is 3.1 acres, which had Building 1 and Building 2. What else was included in the vesting tentative map was the on-site and off-site improvements, including Stevens Creek Boulevard upgrades to include detached Class 4 bike lanes and other improvements as well. And so this is what have a really high elevation view of what the vesting tentative map was. I did a red highlight of parcel B, which is really the crux of what we're discussing today for the new tentative parcel map. So you have parcel A and you have parcel B. As you see, you have building 1 and building 2 within parcel B. What the applicant is requesting is that this proposed vesting tentative map be 3 parcels. Parcel A, untouched, 4.7 acres. But then parcel B would be split. You have parcel B would be 2.5 acres, which would contain primarily building 1, the senior care facility. That's non-BMR and also retail as well. And then parcel C, which is 0.6 acres, which would be the BMR building only. The reason why the applicant is asking for this is mainly because of financing. To finance the construction of the BMR building, it has to be on a standalone parcel. And as part of it, and what adds on to this too is that because much of this building is being financed by California tax credit program, that they have certain requirements such as timing to get permits, as well as certain design requirements that this be a standalone parcel, not be mixed with any other types of developments as well. I know the applicant's here with his team, that they can probably explain better the TCAC process, which is the California Tax Credit Program process, and what the requirements are specifically behind this. So this is what the vesting tentative map will look like. You see parcel A untouched from the prior approval. Parcel B has been reduced slightly to accommodate a standalone parcel C for that BMR building as well. Nothing else is being changed in terms of unit count, site design, and whatnot. Further, recently the applicant has submitted the trip generation counts for the city's public works department to determine what the in lieu payments for the transportation impact fee would be. Originally, the vesting tentative map had the applicant or the developer doing offsite improvements on the north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, as well as the south side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, adjacent to De Anza College. Based upon further review, it was determined that the proposed project would generate actually fewer evening and afternoon peak hour trips than the existing uses on site. So as the project has no net impact on the transportation network, therefore the TIF payment is not required, and the bike improvements are not required. Now, not required on the south side of Stevens Creek Boulevard. On the north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, adjacent to the project site, those will still be required, and the applicant is still required to coordinate with Caltrans in cooperation with the city for approval of the work within the Caltrans jurisdiction and whatnot. If for some reason the applicant cannot coordinate with Caltrans, the applicant will still work with the city to come up with some type of design to accommodate those bike improvements. So the bike improvements are still proposed and required on the north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard, just to the project site. The environmental review, again, the EIR was approved on August 18th by Council of 2020. The proposed changes to the project do not have any new or substantially more severe significant environmental impacts, as was analyzed within the EIR. So no further environmental review is necessary. There is one revision to the draft resolution. And so this would be a paragraph describing the CEQA determination within the resolution itself, kind of adding on to what's there already. So if this project is recommended for approval of the city council, this would be added on to the draft resolution for council's determination. Outreach followed the city of Cupertino's municipal code in terms of what's needed to be done for a project of this scope. The recommended action is that staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider the evidence presented and determine whether the project can be recommended for approval in accordance with the following draft resolution, including the revision as previously noted by staff. The next step, we see a council decision on July 20th, 2021, will be final unless reconsidered within 10 days of the decision. And that concludes my presentation.
Process question. Seth, do we hear from the applicant as well?
That now would be a time to hear from the applicant unless you have any questions for John.
Okay, so let's see if we have any questions for John, and then we'll get to the applicant, and then we'll do questions there. And just for people to know, process-wise, we're going to do, we'll then actually go to the public after that as well. So, okay, questions for John on the Planning Commission, commissioners.
I have none.
Commissioner Kapil?
Yeah, I have just a clarifying question. So basically, you are asking for building C to be included in the plan. Is that the approval required from the Planning Commission? Just clarifying the objective a little bit more.
Can you repeat that first part of the question, Commissioner Kapil? I didn't quite catch that.
So we have a building A, building B, which was there earlier. Now
Sure.
we added a small 0.6 building C for BMR, right?
Right, and those buildings have all been approved already. It's just a matter of putting building 2 on its own separate parcel, which is the BMR building.
I see. Okay, so it was previously it was part of the Plan B. Is that right?
Yes, it was all within parcel B. Correct.
And John, just to clarify, there's no proposed change to the building envelope or the structure. We're just talking about changing the parcel line beneath the development.
That's correct. Seth, thank you.
Yeah, quick question to staff on my end. I think, as we break out parcels A, parcel B, parcel C, are those separate areas from a land map perspective, from a land map planning perspective? Is that how we're going to treat those going forward? And are those, can they be sold off individually, A, B, and C, at some point in time?
Well, and again, I'll have the applicant when he makes his when he does his brief presentation to clarify that the BMR building, I mean, all the parcels will probably be sold off. I mean, the west side of the projects will be condominiumized and whatnot. So eventually it will be sold off, and the BMR building will be developed by a separate developer as well. The council was very astute in adding safeguards that this development will be developed as planned and not be sold off, and to be something like a skyscraper or whatever else too. So a lot of triggers within that. The development permit, which is still intact, with those same conditions of approval, had quite a few triggers in there that there has to be agreements, a development agreement. I'm sorry, not a development agreement, but certain types of agreements that have to be completed between the two parties, being the city and the developer, prior to the final map even being recorded.
Makes sense. Okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that for the public as well. I know people are curious. Okay, great. Well, let's move it to Mark. Mark, what do you have to share with us?
Good evening, Chairman Wong. Can you hear me okay?
You sound good.
Oh, great. Thank you. With me tonight, if needed, is Mike Kelly with the Pacific Companies. Mike is the affordable builder at the Westport project. And we have an agreement to donate or sell the land to Pacific Companies. And as part of our condition of approval, number 11, it requires that it be under its own parcel. So tonight, we're looking for the Planning Commission to allow the parcel to be created, and then it'll go to the City Council. KT Urban will be building the townhomes where we submitted our improvement plans to the city, and we're anticipating breaking ground in the August timeframe for the townhomes. Mike Kelly is set to go forward. He received state funding, just got awarded that here in June. And it's a requirement that he be underway within 180 days of receipt of that state financing. So those improvement plans have also are underway and will be submitted to the city and coordinated with your building department for construction documents. So tonight, that's just what we need to do, is just have the parcel created so we can move forward with the requirements that we have under our conditions of approval.
Okay. Any questions from the council for Mr. Tersini?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Kapil?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the area of this parcel C. Is that just the marking of that parcel C has just changed, or the area allocated to that is also changed?
It's the same area that we dealt with previously, so the building footprint is the same. So it's the same parcel size.
And in that parcel, what is the area for? Because it says 2,400 or something square foot allocated for retail, and remaining must be for the BMR residential unit. So what's that area?
It's a 0.6 acre site total for the building and including the ground floor retail.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions from the commissioners? All right, I don't have any as well, so let's turn it to the public and we'll individual. I see Peggy Griffin, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Lisa. Let me bring them in and I will ask you to unmute. So let's see here. All
Good
right,
evening. Good evening, planning commissioners and staff. I'm frustrated at the lack of supporting documentation for this item. It lacks proof that creating a third parcel is necessary. The staff report just states that KT Urban wants it. Where is his documentation supporting this request for a third parcel? The staff report doesn't cite the California codes and requirements justifying this request. Where's the updated agreement on the phasing of construction with the third parcel? This is really important. It could be sold. I know that KT Urban has a agreement with Pacific companies, but they say always verify and check. So I am expecting the city to do the same. Where's the updated agreement on the phasing? Staff worked hard to put it in place, something that would ensure completion of both towers before the townhomes and row houses were completed. Separating the BMR out of to a separate parcel means it can be sold and KT Urban can wash their hands of its progress. You really need to look at this and make sure that we are protected. We just approved the tentative map. Didn't he know then that he didn't want it? The bus stop was supposed to remain in front of the senior center for safety purposes. But this plan, if you look into it, the bus stop is in front of Westport. It's a safety issue. It's safer in front of the senior center. Downgrading the bike lane is a bait and switch that the public has not been made aware of. You don't have any proof that there's any TIF measurements. Where's the report to make these changes? You don't just say because somebody said so or somebody asked. These changes need to be documented. Please enforce this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. We're going to move this to Jennifer Griffin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome. We can hear you.
Thank you for putting up with my weird IT. I'm on the phone and my tablet microphone is silenced by Zoom. Who knows? Anyway, yes, thank you for having this meeting about the Oak property. This is a very, very high profile project. I remember when I first started going to Dianza, we would go across the street. There was a music place in there and you could get hot chocolate and some people got beers. But anyway, I'm hoping that the city can make sure that this turns out to be a quality project because this is the, an entrance to Cupertino, high profile. I just wanted to, I had a couple of questions. I would probably, in my naive state, probably be happier if the state is two parcels. I just parcelizing things into more than 2 to 3 really is bothersome, but I'm not an expert in that. I just had a couple of questions. One of them is one of the one of the parcels is going to have the townhouses and the row houses. Will those people own the properties, own the ground? I'm assuming they're going to be in an HOA and have to pay dues for upkeep of joint property. Can their land be sold, or do they own the parcel under them? My mother-in-law lives in a townhouse association and they own the ground. The other thing is too, thanks to one of the Senator Wiener bills, you can now put ADUs inside of condominium complexes or townhouse areas, and you can convert garages and washrooms into ADUs. Have we looked whether this townhouse and row house project on the west side of the property can contain more ADUs? We have ADU adventures coming up in the next item, and I'm just wondering, this is new stuff for all of us, and I would be really concerned that because of that bill that was, I think it was Gavin that signed it, God knows why, we could wind up with another potentially 25 to 30 ADU units inside of this condominium townhouse area that is going to be on the property. What do we do about parking? I mean, that could throw a wrench in the whole side. It's nobody's fault except the governors for signing that bill, but we're the ones that are having to look at what happens. Also, I want to make sure that any retail that goes in there is going to be able to provide things, amenities for people attending Vianza College and for people going to Flint Center, to movies, etc.
Hey, Jennifer, we're out of time. So
thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Sounds like you wanted to make sure it's inclusive and accessible to the public. Okay, let's move it to Lisa Warren. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I think I heard an error in describing, I think it's Mr. Kelly, who's the group that's going to develop the BMR senior units, but they were referred to by Mr. Tersini as townhouses later, so I don't want there to be any confusion if I heard it correctly. So that he was developing and needed this 180 days. So I have to agree strongly with Peggy that when there are there's no attachments explaining the explanation for wanting or needing this change. And from day one on this property, the number of parcels has been of concern, mainly because of sell-off. And it remains a concern, and it was brought up by Planning Commission and City Council this 2 times ago when they had a plan and then they had it approved and they came back and changed it again. So this merry-go-round of changing plans is always concerning, maybe sometimes well justified, but other times just concerning, because when you have no data to back up the reasons, it's even more concerning. So I agree with Peggy about that. I also noticed the bus stop moving in the plans on page 6, and I thought that was removed as well. And I don't know how many attendees there are from the public, but I know there was a lot of input from bike ped people about the bike access, including the internal bike route, which was not really ever clearly defined, but I just would hate for that to be missing and not be noted, because I didn't see anything about it on page 6 out of the 6 pages that we have. I just don't think there's enough information for you guys to give a recommendation for this, and I caution you if you think there is. So I mean, you're more qualified than I, or you wouldn't be commissioners, but I've been around and heard enough that this concerns me. And actually, it's a good example of maybe we need to get the same people involved that were involved before in the discussion, meaning the attorneys and the and this, that, and the other thing that are already familiar with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, we've got Larry Dean. I don't see any other folks, but if you're interested in joining, providing your comments from the public, please raise your hands, and we'll call on you. I'll be Larry Dean, then Rhoda Fry, and then we'll see what else is from there. So, Larry, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Great, thank you, Chairman Wong. I sent in a letter and some attachments, but I don't think that they've been distributed. If that's the case, I'll go ahead and read the letter.
Yeah, I got the letter anyway. I'm sure we all did, but yeah, go ahead and read it.
But please,
okay.
Yeah, please go ahead and read it.
On behalf of the citizens of Cupertino, we ask you to identify what funding level is at stake regarding the developer commitment to fund the bike ped improvements on both sides of Stevens Creek Boulevard. To vote no and deny KT Urban's latest request not to fulfill its funding commitment for safe bike ped amenities on both the north and south side of the boulevard, and also ensure that the development and use permit that Lisa just alluded to for the complexes guarantee resident access to the road and walkways from Mary Avenue to the corner is ensured. It's not clear that that commitment has been documented. A little history: Mary Avenue, Stevens Creek Boulevard, Highway 85, Deanza College intersection is one of the most important and busy bike ped intersections in Cupertino with extraordinarily high auto bike ped conflict. Not that long ago, around 10 years ago, we lost a middle-aged resident cycling to shopping. It's very busy there. 3 to 4 years ago, the first KT Urban development proposal for offices and a hotel had a sole bike ped lane along the Highway 85 sound wall cutting from Mary Avenue to the 85 Stevens Creek Boulevard intersection. See the graphic. This proposal was denied. Last year, spring of 2020, KT Urban submitted an entirely new plan with the senior retirement building and row housing. This plan neglected to design in the bike ped path along the 85 sound wall, but as a community benefit, KT Urban committed to funding bike lane improvements on the south and north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard. Late in the approval process, KT Urban also agreed to make an easement for a new cut-through route from Mary Avenue to the Stevens Creek Boulevard 85 walkway intersection. The latest proposal appears to eliminate both the funding and the access easement from Mary Avenue to the Stevens Creek 85 intersection. Can you clarify that also? This project in the greater intersection has major impact to residents. Over 300 Monte Vista High School students could use that getting to school, bicycle commuters to the Monte Vista district, many hundreds of Apple employees, and so on. It looks to me like it's a walking back of the developer's commitments, and I hope that's not the case. The promised and committed funds should be applied to supplement either the active Stevens Creek Boulevard Class 4 bike lane project or be allocated to another bike ped project in the Mary Avenue, Stevens Creek, and Bub Road area. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Larry. We're going to go to Rhoda Fry, and then see if there's anyone else. For those following along, just raise your hand on Zoom, and of course, we'll call you.
Good evening, commissioners. I got a call from a buddy of mine to ask me to take a look at these plans tonight. And, you know, there's a lot of wonks in our town, right? And I really had a hard time getting my brain around it. And I'd asked for this issue to be brought back so that when we do look at these plans, that we can really get a good understanding as to what changed and why it changed. And I want to also concur with previous comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Your comments? Let's see if anyone else in the public has any comments. Okay. With that, we're going to take it back to the commission, see if there's any kind of comments from the commissioners. Commissioner Kapil, any questions?
Yeah, I think I agree with the comments about the bike lane provisioning not explained properly in the documentation provided, and also the benefit of creating a separate parcel for the funding reason is also not explained in details in terms of is that the sole reason for creating a separate parcel, as it looks apparent from the presentation that that was the primary motivation. So, but it's very clear from the documentation whether what kind of a benefit exactly that is providing. These two questions I had actually.
Who are you directing the questions to?
It's not clear from the documentation given along with the proposal. So anybody can address that, or probably that is not clear.
Okay.
So, Chairman, I don't think it was a question more than a comment.
I think it was a comment.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. So, okay. Vice Chair Scharf?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I am ready to go. So, of course, I was on the city council when this was approved, but I do believe this is a significant change to the project and that it's not in the best interest of the city to approve the request of the property owner in terms of a new tentative map. The applicant's free to bring back a different project with buildings on 3 separate parcels, each of which would be in compliance with the general plan and each of which would comply with our requirements for inclusionary BMR housing. I think the idea that a project can gain approval with the waivers and concessions that allow the developer to put all the BMR housing in that one building, which does not comply with our BMR ordinance, but is allowed based on waivers and concessions that the state requires us to grant. I mean, I think that was, okay when we approved it, and it was, but now separating the parcels kind of gets around that. The other issues, the applicant, could bring this back with the class 4 bike lanes restored. They could put the bus stop back on the east side of Mary Avenue. I do think the bike infrastructure is very important, especially now with the new bike lanes going in on Bub Road and the fact that Monte Vista High School students do live in the area of Garden Gate and around where the Westport project is going to be. And finally, one of the residents that commented, I believe with Lisa Warren, she said, we really, I do agree, we really want to ensure that we have our city attorney and or an outside attorney such as Sunny Sultani, who's been consulting on another project, give us advice on the pros and cons of dividing the parcel and creating a third parcel. I don't have enough information here, so I would be voting not to approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've taken a look at the plans, and I do understand that conditions change over time, and but I do feel a little bit confused as to the rationale for the changes that are occurring. But I think I do echo the sentiments that Vice Chair Scharf has mentioned. It feels like we approved one project and then we ended up with the ability to get to a second different derivative of a project. And these seem like very different uses, land uses. So I think it's interesting, and I'd love to ask Mr. Tersini as to what changed, what factors changed, and if you can share with us why this occurred. I think some questions from the public, I think, was also very useful in terms of understanding, what kind of grants or concessions or timeframes you're up against as well, so that we have a good understanding of your point of view. So can you share with us, Mr. Tersini, Mark?
Happy to do so, Chairman Wong. Again, it's not a change project. The conditions for the state approval, which specific companies received, required a separate parcel. A condition under our approved project, condition number 11, requires that we sell the parcel or dedicate the parcel to the affordable builder, and that the affordable builder demonstrates that they have financing in place, which they have done that. So they've already secured financing, and so the next step for us is to dedicate the parcel to them. So we're creating the parcel to dedicate to them. They're not being sold to anybody else. It's being sold to specific companies. KT Urban will be building the townhomes, and the related, and Atria will be building the assisted living project. To answer the bicycle questions too, I just want to reference that the bicycle improvements are still included within the subdivision. The easement going through back out to from Mary and through the project out to Stevens Creek Boulevard. We'll also include the bicycle improvements along Stevens Creek. It's not our decision where the bus duck out comes. That comes from VTA. So that's something that VTA and the city of Cupertino will work out. So this is simply a financing requirement for the state, and a requirement that we have under our condition for us to meet condition number 11 and allow us to build all 88 townhomes that are approved. The condition was written that we could only build up to the 65th townhome units until the affordable has been financed and the parcel has been dedicated. So we're doing those two things here tonight to allow us to move forward with the project as approved.
Okay, thank you there. And then the question about the bike ped commitments, are those changed? Are they different?
Through the Chair Wong, if I could just make a clarification, the applicants were referring to condition 11. That's with the development permit. So the development permit, if I can just clarify, no conditions have changed in development permits. So that condition 11, which is titled concurrent development of BMR market rate housing, still there. In fact, one of the conditions, I believe the second condition of the draft tentative map resolution. I'm sorry, it's the third condition, concurrent approval conditions. Yeah, those. So that's basically saying any other approval from the August 18th, 2020 approval of the West Park Cupertino project are still there, which includes, I think, even to the concerns of a few of the residents speaking, are still valid and are still applicable to this. If this project were to be approved for the revisions, would still be applicable.
I think, yeah, John, I think the question was really, are the committed bike ped improvements and those are still based on number 3, right? That would actually include those going forward. Is that correct?
Sure. Yes. The tentative map, the approved tentative map did have a bike pedestrian easement on the west side that connected Mary Avenue, Stevens Creek to the corner of basically the on-ramp of 85 and Stevens Creek Boulevard. So that's still proposed.
Still proposed, meaning that it's in play, or it's subject to change, or it's subject to any other type of.
Chairman Wong, we will build that improvement. We'll also build the improvements on the north side of Stevens Creek Boulevard. The question came up with the improvements on the south side is that they've not been approved by Caltrans with the city of Cupertino. So our civil engineer, the city, and Caltrans are working together on the improvements that will be allowed to be built there.
Okay, good to know. All right. Any other clarification questions from commissioners?
Right. So, yeah, I had a question. So I'm not clear when this project was proposed, why was it not divided into 3 parcels if it was known that it would be a requirement that whoever built the below market rate housing would require a separate parcel? I mean, this would seem pretty obvious. And yet when it came to council, there was, this was never mentioned.
Commissioner Scharf, that would be my error. We had the design to do it in a condominium map, so we could actually just map that particular area for the affordable housing. And it was determined that the affordable housing required a separate parcel for financing. So therefore, that's why we're coming back and putting a separate parcel in place.
Okay, thank you.
Any other clarification questions from the commissioners?
So I would think that the bike plans have to be in place in documentation or some kind of a written agreement before we can take a decision on it, right? I mean, it is in plan, in progress, in mind, and things like that. That's kind of a fluid. So it has to be some sort of pretty much documented that how the easement and what the actual plan is. I would think that before we can vote on it.
So, Chair Wong?
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, you know, I'm not opposed to postponing this until we could get, you know, clarification from our attorneys or outside attorneys, you know, as opposed, you know, I said I would not vote for it and I still will not, but I would not be opposed to a postponement in order for us to have our planning department get us some, you know, some better information and for consultation with the attorneys.
That's a good question, and I think I agree with that. I think we're probably missing some legal questions on our end, and I think that'd probably be good. And plus, we'll also have 2 other commissioners at that point in time as well, so or potentially 2 other commissioners. Commissioner Capil, how do you feel about that if we postpone this to get some legal advice internally on our team?
Yeah, personally speaking, I cannot vote based on the current documentation. It will be good if we can get a little bit more better documentation on the proposal and on the plan, on the whole project. Then postponement is probably the right call, I guess.
Okay, so Commissioner Capil, I think what you're looking for, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, let me know. But I'm interpreting this as you want to get an understanding that the assurances and promises made in previous commitments are carried forward in this change. And Vice Chair Sharp, you want to make sure that we just have a good legal review just to make sure that everything we have in place is kosher.
And I think I think the council is on break. I think we probably do have time to get that legal advice without delaying anything. You know, I believe, or at worst, you know, delaying it for 2 weeks.
And Mr. Tersini, does that impact your timing for any kind of approvals or grants as well?
No, we have thank you, Chairman Wong. We have a scheduled hearing date set for the council, but that will be in the July timeframe. So if we can get back in front of the Planning Commission prior to that July, that will not impact this schedule, and appreciate that. The timing is critical with Pacific companies. Having the state financing in place, the 48 units will be ready to break ground in the December timeframe. We're also prepared to we are going to be breaking down on our townhomes as well. So the project's moving forward. We just need to have this, what I call a lot line adjustment or parcel created to allow for the financing.
If I may, Chair Wong, a second planning commission meeting on this will impact the schedule. There are some noticing requirements, and we do have to have the Planning Commission's recommendation in the notices that we post for the council meetings, and we will not have any lead time to do that. So this item would not be able to be heard in July at the City Council. I just wanted to make that
okay. Well, yeah, if necessary, the council can even call, you know, a special meeting.
We can call a special meeting if we need to.
And we can call a special meeting as well, you know, to prevent any undue delays.
Yeah, July 6th would be that meeting if we wanted to call to meet your noticing requirements, and our regular scheduled meeting is July 13th, so we can keep that in place. I think what the net effect right now is it will probably be a negative vote at this moment. versus having some more information if we can push this out to a special meeting on July 6th or to find the timing to work July 13th. Pew, I'll work with you to figure out what that timing should be, because I think that's where the commissioners are headed here on this.
I'm not opposed to this being postponed. All I'm saying is even with the special meeting on July 6th, it will not work. Just looking at the schedule.
Okay.
The city council would also have to be a special meeting. That's all I want to put out.
When is the city council meeting?
I mean, fortunately, special meetings are, for better or for worse, special meetings are a lot easier now than they were in the past.
It is. It is. I mean, I'm open if we have to actually do this meeting. On the 6th as well. That's an option for folks.
Okay, and if it impacts it, it impacts it. Otherwise, it would be a no vote, which would even, be more of an impact. Well, not really, because the city council doesn't have to listen to anything that we actually say.
So,
although they usually do.
Chair Wong, if I may just speak on behalf of the city attorney's office for a moment.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thanks. So we are certainly happy to review and respond to any questions the commission or the council may have about this application. We have reviewed the materials. John represented them quite well from our perspective. We agree that the conditions of approval from the August 18th, 2020 project approval are reincorporated into this resolution, as John mentioned. Changing the parcel boundary underneath the project doesn't appear to affect those existing conditions. But nonetheless, the commission does appear to have concerns that the project as proposed may not conform to the general plan, which is a requirement to discretionarily approve a tentative map. So we're happy to answer any questions you might bring to us.
Okay. I think as chair, to close out this issue, I think we're making a proposal to postpone this item to get further legal review. I think Vice Chair Scharf has a suggestion of where that legal review may come from. And then I think so the motion that's going to be, we're going to vote to postpone this, but place it in a special session so that we can actually make the time deadlines as needed. And is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? I know we probably have to work on timing, but normally our dates, and so we don't conflict with I wonder what happens with Zoom, because we're not competing for space. It's not like we're competing for the dais space, right? So we could actually put these on any date as we need to. So I think we'll be open on that, and so we'll work to get a special meeting in place. Okay.
If I could ask a favor, Chair Wong, staff, because I want to be able to come back with the substantive staff report. Could you just clarify what items needs clarification? I'm assuming you want a legal review. That's fine. Seth had said that his office would do that. And you want evidence of that there's a continued bike easement on the property?
Right, class 4.
Okay. I do want to point out, and we can always go back, of course, and do that, but I do want to point out that the bicycle and pedestrian easement is identified on the currently on the vesting tentative map as well. That is there. If you want me to share my screen, I can do that right now. But so you want to ensure that's class 4?
Right. I don't understand why the change to the tentative map included any mention of any traffic study for the bike infrastructure. It seems like it's not related to dividing that parcel in two.
So I think what I'll do is I'll unshare a couple things in the next meeting. Is that I will include the traffic study that was submitted by the applicant and peer reviewed by our traffic staff, our traffic engineers and the city staff, and then maybe we'll have someone from Public Works attend the meeting to explain that. I know Seth, if you can jump in, that in terms of our ability to require the applicant to pay these traffic impact fees, we have to have a certain nexus from what's realistically there. What we can realistically, what there has to be a nexus between what we can charge and what the actual impacts
I mean, how do you even know, during COVID and all, how would you even know what the expected bicycle traffic would be when The school is not even in session.
Well, it would be the vehicular traffic that we're studying
Okay.
in terms of. I mean, it's basically the fee base. Generally, the fee base. It's not necessarily based on projected bicycle traffic or not. But
Okay.
Base, right, GP? It is not related to how many. They're not counting cars. It's really they're doing this based on the trip generation studies.
correct. Yeah, the trip generation studies.
Okay.
They basically have what the biggest change was. If I again, I'll take the blame for this one. That wasn't attached to the staff report, but the difference was when the EIR studied the traffic impacts, it was based upon a slightly more intense scope, which was that the building one, which is now a age-restricted building, was essentially a non-age restricted building. I believe there were 131 condominiums, right, units.
So we
And
generate less trips
Right.
now. Okay.
yeah, so you're generating a lot less trips with the age restriction. So that was the big change with the traffic impact study, which impacts the amount of TIF that we can collect. And as the current use, believe it or not, is 100% retail, that would actually, in theory, generate more traffic than what's actually proposed, which is almost virtually all residential. But that being said, I think I have a better idea of what to bring back next time, and I'll work with Pew and Ben to come up with a date that we can come back.
What I have a question on this. One of the things Mark mentioned about getting an agreement between the city and the Caltrain. Is that related to the bike easement?
Caltrans, not Caltrain.
Yeah, probably yes.
So I believe I believe your question is the comment about the applicant worked with Caltrans. So because Highway 85 and its overpass are within the state's purview, the applicant would have to work on or just certify that the design they're proposing is within the state's guidelines for that part of Stevens Creek Boulevard. So that's all that we were discussing about that northern part of Stevens Creek Boulevard.
Okay. There's still a motion, an active motion in play. Abby, can you do the roll? Do the vote? Call the vote, sorry.
Commissioner Capil?
No.
Kapil, this is the motion for postponement.
Oh, so yes.
Vice Chair Scharf?
Aye.
Chair Wong?
Aye. Motion carries 3-0-2. Absent, not even abstain. I forgot how that works. 3-0-0-2. So I've got a fourth one. Okay, let's find a date for the postponement, revisiting this. If it has to be a special session, I look forward to doing that. Thanks, Mr. Tersini, for coming. We really look forward to getting some affordable housing here, and I really appreciate your efforts and patience. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is item number 3. Subject, consider an appeal of the Community Development Director's approval of a 2-story permit to allow for a new 2922 square foot 2-story home with a 746 square foot attached accessory dwelling unit and a minor residential permit to allow for a new 2nd-story balcony. Application number R2020-035 and RM-2020-023. The applicant, Smart Lily LLC, property owners, Tariqul Khan and Shaman Hafiz, appellants, Jitesh Vadia and Chi Lung Lin, location 1506 Primrose Way. Recommended action that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolutions, attachments 1 and 2 to 1, find that the proposed actions are exempt from CEQA, and 2, deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision to approve the 2-story permit and the minor residential permit. So let's go to the staff report. Who do we have, Pew?
So thank you, Chair Wong. This is for a 2-story home, and Erica Poveda is here, who will go over the staff report for us, and the appellants are here as well. And I do believe the architect for the applicant is here as well.
All yours.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Sorry, just one second. All right, good evening, Commissioners. I'm Erica Poveda, Associate Planner with Community Development Department. And tonight I'll be presenting on the appeal of the Community Development Director's approval of a two-story permit and a minor residential permit, file numbers R-2020-035 and RM-2020-023. The project is located at 1506 Primrose Way in the Monte Vista South neighborhood. The site is zoned single-family residential R16 and is surrounded by other R16 zoned properties with a mix of single-story and two-story homes. The project consists of a two-story permit to allow for a new 2,922 square foot two-story home with a 746 square foot attached ADU, and a minor residential permit to allow for a second-story balcony. The single-family residential or R1 ordinance requires both permit types to undergo administrative review with the decision made by the Director of Community Development. The code also requires any appeals for these projects to be heard by the Planning Commission. For context, I'll provide a brief overview of the project timeline with more details available in the staff report. On November 29th, 2020, the applicant submitted an application for a two-story residence with attached ADU and second-story balcony. Staff conducted a review of the proposed project for conformance to the code from November 29th through February 22nd, 2021. The required public comment period took place from March 5th through the 19th, and 7 adjacent property owners were notified through mail during this time. Additionally, the property owners posted a publicly visible notice board on site as required by code, and staff received 11 comments during this public comment period. Comments included concerns about size and design of the project, privacy impacts of the two-story windows and balcony, size of the windows, and concerns that the ADU could potentially be converted to the main home. Staff responded to each of the public comments and included a summary of comments and responses in the action letter. And also in response to the comments received during the public comment period, the applicant revised the project scope and design to reduce the total building height and entry feature height, slightly reduce the total FAR, and to reconfigure the elevations and design to be more compatible with the neighborhood. The Director of Community Development then approved the revised design on April 19th, and an action letter with the director's decision and conditions of approval was sent to the applicant, the property owner, and everyone who commented. Staff received 2 appeals for the director's decision during the subsequent 2-week appeal period. Staff received an appeal from the property owner of 1493 Poppy Way and a separate appeal from the neighboring property owner of 1479 Poppy Way, both shown in yellow, with the project address of 1506 Primrose Way shown here in red. While detailed information is provided in the staff report, the next slides will summarize the 3 main bases for both appeals with staff's responses. The first basis of appeal is regarding the mass and bulk of the proposed residence. The appellants argue that the proposed home is more than double in size compared to other homes in the area. Additionally, it's stated that Primrose Way is a community of single-story homes, and that a new 2-story home would not only destroy the look and feel of the neighborhood, but would also block the views of Poppy Way residents. The appellants also claim that the home is not harmonious in scale and design to the rest of the neighborhood. The proposed main residence has a total floor area of 2,992 square feet, which is 44.5% of the floor area ratio compared to the net lot area. And the maximum FAR allowed by the R1 ordinance is 45%. Per state law, the ADU does not count towards FAR. A review of the existing homes surrounding the project area along Primrose Way and Poppy Way indicates that floor areas range from approximately 1,900 square feet to approximately 3,000 square feet, with the average home being almost 2,400 square feet. The surrounding neighborhood is transitional, has a mix of single-story and two-story residences. The figure highlights the two-story residences in the immediate surrounding area, with 12 out of the 32 surrounding homes, including one of the appellants, being two-story residences, with the average two-story home being approximately 2,800 square feet. The proposed 2,992 square foot two-story residence is therefore comparable in size to the existing homes in the surrounding area. And before I move on from this slide, I just want to point out that I incorrectly highlighted one of the homes on Primrose Way. The home on the corner here is not a two-story home. That was an accident on my part. Additionally, the project complies with all development regulations for the R1 6-zoned properties regarding mass and bulk, including first floor building envelope, exceeding minimum setback regulations, and being under the maximum allowable building height. The proposed attached ADU also complies with the site development regulations of the ADU ordinance with regard to setbacks, height, and parking requirements. And under state law, the proposed 746 square foot ADU is exempt from floor area and lot coverage limitations since it is less than 800 square feet. As mentioned, the applicant undertook several design changes during the project decision period prior to approval in order to address concerns submitted during the public comment period. On this slide, we see the previous design of the home, which will be compared to the approved design in the next slide. The approved design changes include a reduction to the overall building height from 25 feet 2 inches to 23 feet, where a maximum building height of 28 feet is allowed by the R1 ordinance. A reduction to the entry feature height, slight reduction in the FAR, breaking up the previously proposed two-story bay window feature by removing the heavy stone materials and adding ornamental features, reducing the visual mass of the exposed second-story portion by increasing first floor roof height, making the window forms more consistent throughout the design, and simplifying the roof lines on the first and second floors. Together, these alterations create a more harmonious project in terms of scale and design with the surrounding neighborhood. Additionally, there is currently no architectural design overlay in this neighborhood requiring projects to adhere to a certain architectural style. Therefore, the city cannot mandate a specific architectural style for the project. The second basis for appeal is the potential privacy impacts from the proposed second-story balcony, second-story windows, and first floor ADU windows. The appellants point out that there is a 5-foot grade difference between Poppy Way and Primrose Way, with homes on Primrose having a grade that is 5 feet higher than homes on Poppy. Additionally, the appellants state that the privacy plantings will not be sufficient mitigation for the project. The R1 ordinance implements regulations such as building envelope and building setbacks to ensure the provision of light, air, and reasonable level of privacy to residences. The proposed residence exceeds all minimum setback requirements for the proposed first and second floors, as well as the second-story balcony. The applicant has proposed a first floor rear yard setback of 28 feet 5 inches, where only 20 feet is required. A second-story rear yard setback of 34.5 feet, where 25 feet is required, and a rear yard balcony setback of over 26.5 feet, where 20 feet is required by code. The R1 ordinance also allows property owners the ability to construct second-story windows and balconies as long as privacy screening plantings are installed and maintained. For the R1 ordinance, the objective of privacy plantings is to provide substantial screening within 3 years in order to mitigate privacy impacts from second-story windows and balconies. The applicant's proposing 7 Laurus nobilis, which is one of the city's approved privacy planting species, in order to screen along the rear property line. Privacy plantings for the right and left property lines are not required since the applicant has obtained a signed privacy waiver form from the adjacent property owners. As a note, code does not require privacy plantings for the first floor. And privacy plantings are considered protected trees and shall be protected and maintained by a recorded covenant against the property. And as protected trees, they are not permitted to be removed without obtaining a tree removal permit and providing adequate replacement plantings. There are several other points raised by the appellants, including that 2 permits on Primrose Way were given single-story permission, and that the city appears to be using a different and unexplained set of principles for the permit in question. I believe that the appellant's comment seems to be indicating that other applicants in the neighborhood have chosen to propose single-story additions to their home instead of second story. However, as mentioned, the code does not disallow 2-story residences, as there is no single-story overlay in the neighborhood. As shown previously, there is an existing mix of single-story and 2-story residences within the neighborhood. And due to this scope of work for this project, a 2-story permit was required for the 2-story residence, and a minor residential permit was required for the 2nd-story balcony. And both permit types underwent the required administrative review and approval by the Director of Community Development. One of the appellants states that the ADU is planned to be a separate unit, even though it's attached to the main residence. Over the long run, the city has not demonstrated that the ADU and main residence will continue to be separate with inspections. In response, the proposed ADU complies with development regulations of the ADU ordinance. And as required by the ADU ordinance, the attached ADU must remain separate from the principal dwelling unit. This requirement has been added as a condition of approval and will be recorded with a covenant on the property. And lastly, one appellant states that Cupertino is known for its great schools and peaceful neighborhood. Buyers pay a premium for living in Cupertino for these reasons. Cupertino School is losing students. Due to that, the school district is planning to close 2 schools. We need more housing for the family with school-aged kids. Converting a suitable house to a Mega One will further reduce the enrollment and harmony of the neighborhood. However, we feel that there is no evidence provided related to the assertion that a proposed new residence with ADU would reduce the enrollment of Cupertino schools. Staff finds that the project complies with all R1 ordinance requirements in regards to FAR, setbacks, height, privacy mitigations, and design. Furthermore, the applicant has revised the project design to reflect the concerns of the surrounding property owners and to be more harmonious with the neighborhood. As a note, staff also received letters of support for the project, which have been provided as a desk item earlier today. Staff therefore recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the proposed draft resolutions to find that the proposed actions are exempt from CEQA and to deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision approving the applications. I'm available for questions, and we also have both appellants as well as the applicant and property owner here who are all prepared to make a short presentation.
Okay, before we do that, let's have the commissioners, if you have any questions for staff, let's do that now, and then we'll hear from, of course, our appellant as well as our applicant. So,
Chair Wong, I did want to point out that there were a few written communications that were received after the packet was published, and those have been forwarded to you.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, thank you.
I have no questions, but I would like to thank planning for a very comprehensive and detailed presentation. That's what we love to see.
I would second that. Any questions, Commissioner Capillo?
Yeah, it's a very good presentation. So I'm only the concern I have, you have 3 appeals on this project from the neighborhood and from the privacy concern and look and feel concern and odd house being an odd house, and so that's primarily the the objections to those plan must be taken into consideration, or must have been taken into consideration in proposing this approval by the director, I presume. And so from that perspective, I believe that there are too many details here, but if these concerns are adequately addressed using the tree, shrubs, and whatnot, which has been mentioned in the presentation, it looks to me a justified proposal.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kapil. I just want to say I drove through that neighborhood a couple times to get a feel for what was going on, and I saw that homes on Barnhart and Poppy, for example, were 2-story, but they were done in a previous time frame. Are there examples of new 2-story additions that I may have missed along the way, just to see if how we followed that process in, let's say, the last 5 years?
I believe that within that map that I showed, I believe that the existing 2-story homes are a bit older than that.
They seem to be much older.
Right.
Okay.
If I may, Chair Wong, there are also a number of, well, I hate to use that qualification, but there are at least a couple of homes on Waterford Drive and then on Leeds and Donegal Drive, which are also in the neighborhood. Those, the ones on Waterford Drive are probably built in the 2000s, and the ones on Leeds and Donegal were done in the 80s. And Erica, maybe you could pull up a Google Street View for the commission to see. But those are very typical of the time that they were built in. So the 90s homes do have the siding with the hardy board or the wood siding. They have vaulted.
They definitely do.
Yeah, they have vaulted seating. They're right by Hoover Park. And then on the flip side, the ones on Waterford are stucco, and they were probably kind of remodeled or added onto in the 2000s.
Yeah,
so,
I've been viewing that as well, just for the public to see as well. This is kind of where we're looking at. I noticed that on Primrose and Barnhart there were 2-story ones that are a little bit newer, but still done probably before the 2000s as well. So
correct.
That's what I just wanted to make sure that people understand that in that community there hasn't been one new homes that have been done to the second floor development amendments that we've had in the past. I just wanted to make sure that people do understand that that's what's going on.
Correct. I would say that the most recent 2-story permits that we've had in that area, a couple blocks away, are from 2016 and 2005.
I just wanted to make sure we had the historical context. Okay, with that, let's move to our. Is it the applicant first, then the appellant, deputy city attorney? Is that how we do it, Seth?
That's right.
Okay, let's go to the applicant, and if you've got any comments, let's make sure we bring them on stage so that they can speak, or the virtual dais or digital dais.
I believe that the applicant actually signed in under attendee, so I can. They have raised their hand, and I will be able to share their presentation for them as long as they're able to speak.
Chair Wong, if I may reverse myself, just thinking on the fly on this, because this action is the appeal,
appellant should come first.
Should come first because we need to give them a chance to rebut the applicant's presentation. So I would propose doing it that way.
All right, let's do it. Let's have our appellants come up first. And folks in the control room, let's get them up here.
We have Mr. Lin and Mr. Vadia.
Let me look for them in.
They're both in panelists right now.
Mr. Lin, I don't see.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Cool, wonderful. Please jump in, turn on video, and we'd love to hear your point of view.
Hey, good evening, commissioners. Thank you to give me this opportunity to talk about my concerns. And thank you, Erica, that you put such a comprehensive information in front of the commissioners. And a couple of things I would like to bring up that my actually biggest concern is still privacy. that as the Chairman Wong, you have walked through the neighborhood, and you know that our neighborhood that have 5 feet height differences. And my house is right behind this new developments. So with the the 2-story houses, it actually will look like a 3-story house to me. And in particular, right, this backyard, second floor balconies actually can have a direct view into my master bedroom, not only my backyards. So that actually create a lot of mental stress on my families. So I strongly believe, right, they will create a long-term impact on us and feeling that somebody is keep watching our daily activities. And I also see that they have privacy screen plans, but I don't believe that will be sufficient at this point. And you also not will be able to address the problem immediately. That we have been living here for almost 20 years. And suddenly, right, we need to have another house that people will be able to sit on their balcony and watch our daily activities. So I would like to see that how can they address these problems. And another thing that I think Erica also mentioned, that in this neighborhood, we have a mix of 1-story and 2-story houses. But on Primrose Way, right, they are mainly a 1-story house and with only, I think, 1,400 square foot. And this house, right, if you have, I think they do have another map, right, comparing that the size differences between the other 2 houses on the right and left-hand side. This house is mega. It's quite big. So I couldn't see that how can this one be compatible with the surrounding use of the neighborhoods. So I really would like the commissioners that you can consider that they reconsider these decisions and remove the backyard facing balconies, that so we won't feel that there is people watching us. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Do we have any other appellants?
Yes, can you hear me, Chairman Wong?
I can. Thank you. Welcome, Jitesh.
Good. Nice to be here. Thank you, Chairman Wong. I've got several points to address. I think most of them have already been said by my neighbor, Xulin. But let me start off with go through a couple of issues. So, as has already been said, Primrose Way is a community of really beautiful single-story homes going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s. This 2-story construction will totally destroy the look and the feel of the neighborhood. And, in my personal feeling, I think it'll encourage other builders to be a little be bolder and to build more 2-story buildings down the road, which in my opinion is really not very good for this community. This application is to be very commercially driven without regard to the neighbors. Secondly, so Poppy Way owners, and I'm on Poppy Way, we paid enormous sums of money to live in Cupertino with the beautiful views of the Cupertino Hills. And unfortunately, this 2-story proposal is going to obscure my views of these Cupertino Hills and the skyline in quite a large way. In my opinion, the applicant has simply not addressed any of my concerns regarding this 2-story construction and the sheer size and mass of it. I think many of the presenters today, they've already addressed this 5-foot gradients difference between Poppy Way and Primrose, but at the end of the day, that's still quite a significant difference between each other's backyards. The height of the applicant's 2-story home, the height of the balcony, the great differences. This raises really large privacy concerns on my side and for my family. And I simply do not believe the applicant has done enough to mitigate my privacy concerns. Specifically to the rear facing balcony, the balcony has direct access. And I have to repeat, it has direct access to all of my first and second bedrooms and backyard. The height of the balcony wall height, the balcony side walls, they're all detrimental to our privacy. People can move around on the balcony. It's just not stationary. Again, the applicant has not, in my opinion, addressed all my privacy concerns here. We've talked about plantings along the utility easement. Well, I feel those are certainly, in most cases, inadequate. The height of the rear-facing balcony requires very tall plantings. Those will take several years to grow. The plantings will run below the utility easement, significantly below the rear-facing balcony height. So this, in combination with the gradient differences, again ensures our privacy is violated through the windows, through the bedrooms, into the backyard as well. Again, I simply do not believe the applicant has addressed our privacy concerns. Additionally, the height of the trees, the height of the balcony, the height of the house, the mass of the house is going to obscure sunlight. I mean, there's no denying it. You can do an analysis on it. It'll significantly decrease. I also have concerns on the ADU. I understand it's an attached unit to the main building. Over the long run, the applicant has not demonstrated the ADU and the main residence will continue to be separate throughout time. I haven't seen any evidence for annual city audits or independent audits on an annual basis, if that's going to be the case or if that's going to be violated. Again, I don't think this has been addressed by the applicant. The ADU itself. The ADU has substantially large windows on the side of the building, and combined with the 5-foot gradient difference, again, it raises privacy concerns. Those windows, even with those changes, have direct line of sight into our bedrooms and the backyard. The applicant has simply not addressed my privacy concerns and any mitigations as well. So I thank the City Cupertino Planning Department for their efforts, but Chairman Wong, I have some very serious concerns about this proposal. Thank you very much.
Jitesh, thank you for your comments. Question to staff and even the appellants from the commissioners. Anybody have any?
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So I do agree that it will obscure the views. The question I had is about the ADU and the concern that in the future there could be some kind of internal connection and it could be a way around the FAR limitation. This is more to the city. What do we do to prevent that from happening and to maintain compliance with our ADU ordinance and the state ADU laws?
Sure. So as part of the resolution for this project, we are requiring a covenant for the property to maintain that the ADU is separate, completely separate with no internal access to the main home. Should anything happen in the future with any alteration that is unpermitted, it would become a code enforcement case.
All right, thank you. That's
a great question. Any questions from you, Commissioner Capil?
Just the concern raised on the balcony causing a privacy violation by both the neighbors. How does the city has tried to address that in terms of finding the high trees which you're going to plant, and how that is something kind of measurable in the sense that what height of the tree is and what the height of the balcony is and what the elevation view is of the neighboring windows and bedrooms and things like that. I think that is a kind of a genuine concern, in my opinion, and should be addressed.
Wonderful. Thank you for your comments. I have a question to staff. Have we heard any comments in one way or another from the other neighbors, for example, at 1503 Poppy Way, or from the ones at 15 Oh my, I need glasses. 1518 Primrose, as well as 1492 Primrose, the adjacent neighbors.
We have received several comments for this project, both in support and against. Perhaps while the applicant gives their presentation, I can kind of round up those addresses.
Okay, sounds good. All right, with that, let's go to the applicant, Mr. Khan, and please go ahead, share your comments. And if you can unmute, that would be great. So,
can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
We can. Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Dear respected Cupertino Planning Commissioner team and Cupertino resident, good evening. I'm Chaman Hafiz and my husband Tariq Khan have been peacefully living in our neighborhood, 1506 Primrose Way, Cupertino since 2005. Our family got bigger. My elderly parents living with me, my husband, my children, my daughter-in-law, and as well as my grandkids on the way. This small house cannot be accommodated the big family. It's necessity for my family, not the luxury. We have discussed with the neighbor and have got overwhelming support from the construction. Our direct neighbor, right, left, and front of my home have waived my project and declared their support for the rebuilding this home. Along with the 12 other members from the Primrose Way, they have offered their support, and I already submitted the letter to the city. We submitted our first design to the city in September 2020 that all met all Cupertino City rules, regulation, and code, was approved by the Cupertino City Planning Commissioner. After this first submission, we had multiple revision of the design to respect and meet the back neighbor concern along with the city's comment. We modified the house design, reducing the height 23 feet. It should be allowed the 28 even, and ADU 800 to 746 square feet along with privacy plans. Plus we did we finally received city approval in April 2021 after much back and forth discussion. However, now we are here in the court due to this same neighbor complaint. Our back neighbor complaint, the Primrose Way is a community single-story home, is a completely false statement. For two-story home, house number 1260, 1272, 1320 is a two-story home, and another one, beginning of the Primrose Way and Rainbow Drive is a two-story home. 6 two-story home in the Waterford Drive is across my house, and 27 two-story home in the Poppy Way. Additionally, there is a big two-story home recently built in our neighborhood. In 2018, its size is 4,086 square feet. It is 7411 Wildflower Way. There are many homes in our neighborhood that are big and two-story. Our final city approval plan, main house, first floor only 1,551 square feet. Garage 462 square feet. Upstairs only 932 square feet. With this square feet is not enough for my big family. I'm not requesting anything extra. This reason I'm highlighting all the defined home is that I want to have the same right that other member of our community had in the building a two-story home. In addressing the privacy concern, we hired a landscape designer and submitted the privacy plan to address our back neighbor concern and respect. Although a lot of tall trees in my backyard that will block any view, please see the below, the backyard trees.
Could you go to the next slide? Now the previous one.
Previous one, you could see show the
my backyard slide.
Backyard slide, yeah.
Okay, it is not there. No.
Okay, yeah, this one. See,
this is our
already. Yeah, already have so many tall trees.
If you see that one is the whole.
After city permit, we should be happy to put the sign up in front of my house that state we are building this house. But unfortunately, putting this sign up means that we have a public hearing against our back neighbor. That makes us so upset, and breaks our heart. It should not be this way. Neighbor and members of our community should be good friends, well-wisher, and offer support. We have met all the city rules, regulation, approved code, even have privacy plan to maintain our neighbors' privacy. After meeting all the Cupertino City Code regulation and rules, if we cannot build this house, then it will be affecting our neighbors' relationship in our community. It will be bad example to our kids and our next generation. We are respected everything the city has told us to do it and ask for us, along with what neighbors comment. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. So I humbly ask you all to bless us so that our dream takes fruition. In fact, it will be valuable addition to the neighborhood. A home is where love resides, memories are created, friends always belong, and laughter never ends. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you to the applicant. Are there any questions from commissioners to the cons?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Kapil, you good? Oh, sorry, you're on mute. So,
I only have one question is related to both of your neighbors have articulated, which is related to the privacy. And have you justified it based on the height of the balcony and the height of the trees which you have in your backyard to them? And that is the straightforward answer comes to my mind is that if your shrubs and trees behind in your backyard are much higher than balcony height, then probably there is not much of it, should not be a concern to that.
Right. We are living here like since 2005, 16 years. And these trees are that tall from the beginning.
Plus we are putting.
And if you ask them, our back neighbor, we are living peacefully with them, never have any concern, any kind of privacy. And also we did the privacy.
I can actually answer that for staff. So as part of the project for the second story balcony view shed, the project is required to install privacy plantings within the view shed of the balcony as shown in the presentation. The city does have a list of city approved plantings, and on that list is the Laurus nobilis, which is what has been identified on the plans. At time of planting, the privacy shrubs need to be at least 15 gallon and 6 feet tall. However, the maximum height ranges from 15 feet to 40 feet at mature height.
Okay, thank you, Erica. I appreciate that. I have no questions for the applicant. And so let's move on to public comment. And I think that's the right process. So we've got 4 individuals: Lisa Warren, Winston Shah, Jennifer Griffin, and Aya Shefkat. Oh, and one more, Raymond. I'll figure out who that is. And then Rima Narayan and Mohammed Islam. So we're going to go in that order. So let's start with Lisa Warren.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to stay generic here. And I just, this is another example of why I keep asking for discussion of changing ordinances for balconies and privacy screenings take place. We need to change what's in the municipal code. There needs to be a very long discussion about what's appropriate because we see over and over again that these are issues. I myself have an issue with privacy screening with a neighbor. And when you choose to build 2 stories, it's part of the deal, but it's not really defined well enough to either protect in many cases or to do it in a collaborative way with your neighbor. There's a list, as Erica described, of things, and I have learned via my work, my profession, and also just neighborhood things and my own experience that landscapers just plop in something off the list because if it's on the list, it's okay, and the city can't say no. They are not always the appropriate selection, and often they are horrible selections, and they shouldn't even be on the list for 5 to 10,000 square foot lots. They're more appropriate for hillside large lots. So I once again urge Planning Commission, somebody to get the ball rolling to have a discussion and make these ordinances in the municipal code more appropriate. I knew that the state allowed for a 4-foot setback for ADUs, but I didn't realize that included attached ADUs. That's insane. Again, that is not the city's doing, and it has to be dealt with. But you've got to remember too, not everyone is going to waive their right to privacy. And if they don't, you're going to have to fit in privacy screening that should be planted no less than 2 feet from a fence within a 4-foot space that has then an eave overhang. The eave overhang leaves less space, 3.5 feet at best, for something to grow. So you have something you plant that, anyway, it's a disaster what's going on. And also, I hope the language protects trees not only from being removed, but trimmed heavily,
Lisa?
or the privacy gets wiped out, which is what happened to me.
Lisa,
So,
we're out of time, so
yep,
I'm going to have to move
I
you.
gotcha. Again,
Okay, so I hear you, Lisa, and I think it's been one of the items that we can consider in the future, a separate discussion point of work plan items on balconies and 2-story homes and privacy. So, so yes, so that's that's okay. Let's move to the next person, Winston Shaw. Please come and share your comments.
Okay, my name is Winston Shaw. I'm 26-year Cupertino resident. I live on Poppy Way since 1995. As Chair has mentioned, that the elevation on the Primrose Way is actually 5 feet higher than on the Poppy Way. So I think in the original design, I think the builder actually pay attention to that factor. With this new application, even though the applicant show us all the data with the original footage of the house, but actually they didn't count the ADU in there, as everybody pointed out, and also Vice Chair Mr. Charles talking about how can we enforce that ADU in the future will not be changed to an integral part of the house. You look at the architectural design, it's like integral part of the house. I'm a civil engineer, professional engineer, registered professional engineer. It's easy to change into an integral part of the house. So there's another issue. But going back to the balcony where everybody is concerned about the privacy, if the applicant is so keen on having a balcony, I look at the side of the house. Actually, it's an intersection of Lee's and the Primrose. They have an unblocked view to the west side of the foothill, Cupertino foothill. I would suggest they can consider switching the balcony to the front side of the building instead of to the back side and causing a privacy concern for the back side neighbors. So that's one solution for them, if they want to consider that. Otherwise, the current balcony is almost 8 by 15 feet, close to 120 square feet. And they can put 4 reclining lounge chair in there. And how, imagine you are living in the backyard house. How can you endure this kind of stress. People might looking at your backyard all the time. The other point I want to point out, from my previous attending of the planning commission meeting, I have seen people asking to raise the windowsill height for this kind of situation, not only removing the balcony, but also raise the windowsill height to 5 feet. And always the previous planning commissioner has been granted that request. And lastly, I want to say, planning department and planning commissioner is to maintain the harmony of the neighborhood. It's not trying to create a disturbance and disruption in the tense relationship in the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Winston. And we're going to move to Jennifer Griffin. Hey, Jennifer, if you can unmute, we should be good.
Can you hear me? I'm on the phone.
We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. I apologize again to everyone with my tablet and phone adventures. Believe me, I have great empathy for everyone involved in this. I live in a one-story home, and I have a 3,000 square foot house from 1999 that has no second-story setbacks, 5 feet from my kitchen, my front door. And then we had a balcony drama across the street, which we had story poles for. This was about 8 years ago. Story poles worked fantastically. Everyone was happy. This was 8 houses in the neighborhood. I'm on a 5,000 square foot lot. But I just wanted to make a comment. This is it's no one's fault, but the governor signed the ADU law, I believe, 2 to 3 years ago. This is one of the first rollout of the ADU in neighborhoods. And I echo Lisa's concerns about the 4-foot setback. My neighborhood allows 5 and 5. I'm in Rancho Rinconada. Believe me, with 5 feet, if you're having an argument in your family or your child is playing its guitar, everyone for 3 houses over can hear it. I'm very concerned about, I do not know why our governor would have signed a bill that allowed a home to be 4 feet from the property line. Only ADUs are allowed to do this because any other type of house construction, you cannot do it. It is 5 feet. So I just wanted to make a comment. I think the dimensions of this ADU is like 55 feet by 15 feet. I think it's only 15 feet across. That is a shotgun house in the South. You can fire a gun from the front door, the bullet goes out the back door. And I don't understand in terms of mitigation. It's not my house, it's not my business, but to me it would seem like moving the house 1 foot to the right would bring the 5 foot compliance. Then you've got adequate on the right side. So I'm also concerned about this 4 foot setback in terms of what the state is doing with this, because in my neighborhood, houses burn in 8 minutes. And I think that it's very important that we remember that if somebody has a fire in one of the ADU kitchens, it could burn into the neighborhood property. I mean, this is nobody's fault. I blame the governor for signing this to use poor judgment. But I just wanted to pass that along. I'm also confused about why this house, I'm understanding it has to be kept as 2 separate residences because it exceeds the FAR. But if the ADU was below the FAR, would they be able to convert it back into the original home? I mean, believe me, Monte Vista, if I was buying in Monte Vista, I would want a big home with 5 bedrooms. I can't afford to live in Monte Vista. But that's not my concern. I have a problem with the 4 foot setback. We could get that in my neighborhood. But and for 65 feet,
We're going to have to move on, but Jennifer, thank you.
4 foot setback. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to Aliyah Shafqat.
Good evening. We have been hearing about a lot about the balcony and also the privacy issues. I'd like to speak in support of the applicant a little bit. I've been in Bay Area for 24 years and 11 years in Cupertino. I have known Tariqul Khan and Chaman Hafiz for 2 decades. Their son and my son went to Monta Vista School together. This couple is true Cupertino veteran. They live in this area for many years. Over the years, they have been excellent with the neighbors and residents, and contributed to their community in many ways. Primarily by actually keeping their property clean, well maintained, maintaining good relationships with the neighbors. And now they are trying to actually embark on a new journey where they want to enhance this neighborhood a little bit more. So how? By building a 2-story house, which will not only improve the neighborhood, but also generate revenues for the city. And a new modern house is always desirable as it increases the home values of the surrounding areas. That's my take. And the home they're trying to build is in no way first of its kind. We just heard, right, from so many people that the 2-story homes are actually existing in that neighborhood. Knowing the kind of people they are, this new home with this new landscaping will not only be a charm, but it will also be an asset to the great community. And also, if they're not given this opportunity here, right, what do you think they will do? I mean, many of these residents will actually move out and find other communities where they'll be allowed to build these kind of structures. So it's not to put down the Cupertino rules and regulations, it's just to, allow a little bit of freedom to different, members to have their dreams come true in this community. We actually, if they are not allowed, I think we'll lose a great community member and a very handsome revenue for the city. Cupertino is actually shedding its iconic old homes at a record pace. The place I live in, I see that all the old homes are actually getting rebuilt. Everywhere we look, new modern buildings are coming up. I think it's going to be a win-win situation if we allow this project to go on and succeed. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Aaliyah. Let's go to Raymond. I think that's the correct name. Please share if that's your name as well. So in case I'm pronouncing it correct.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, my name's Ray, like yours. I've been living on Pop Way for nearly 3 decades now, since the early 1990s. I take frequent walks around the neighborhood. I like to reiterate the requirement that's been shown. Basically, it's in the Cupertino Municipal Code, Chapter 19.28.140. The project is harmonious in scale and design with the general neighborhood. As we have seen on this block of Primrose, whether it's on the east or the west side of the street, there are no 2-story houses at all. If we go further down Primrose towards the Rainbow Drive, again, the houses are primarily single-story, except for 2, which are smaller in size than the proposed house, but these are closer to Rainbow. As such, this behemoth of a 2-story house with over 3,000 square foot is not really harmonious in scale with the general neighborhood. The design is also quite different from the houses in the neighborhood, and again, would not be considered harmonious. The large size, given the 2 stories, disturbs the balance of this part of the neighborhood, in my opinion. We've seen and heard about this 5-foot difference because of the fact that the grade slopes down towards the east, towards Poppy Way in this part. And this is a fact, this part cannot be changed. Yes, there are 2-story houses on the adjacent Poppy Way, but because of these elevation differences, if one's walking along Primrose, you actually cannot see these 2-story houses. Think about that. I invite you to actually take a look and walk along Primrose to try to see those. Even though there's 2 stories on Poppy and single stories on Primrose, you can't actually see the 2 stories on Poppy. And why? Because of elevation differences. On the other hand, walking along Poppy, looking towards the east, towards the Primrose side, one could easily be able to see this large house behind the smaller house, the single-story house, in front of it on Poppy Way. This is not harmonious at all. It'll be noticeable, obvious, and instantly stand out to anyone who passes by. So I invite you to take a walk, not drive, but take a walk along the side of Poppy Way and imagine this 2-story house looming over this and overbearing on the single-story house on Poppy. If constructed, you will also be asking yourself, why did they allow this to happen? Thanks a lot for your time.
Raymond, thank you for your comments. Let's go to Rima Narayan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reema Narayan, and I'm Chaman's neighbor living in Cupertino. I support the addition of a two-story home to our neighborhood when increased space is necessary for families living here. There are more than a few two-story homes in our neighborhood surrounding Hoover Park, as that's really the hub where everybody meets, as the committee members have already noted, and they enhance the aesthetic of the whole neighborhood. I am convinced that the addition of a thoughtfully designed new greener home will help property values and just the general aesthetic in our neighborhood. Also, I understand everything in Chaman and Tariq's plan is up to city code, and it's disheartening to see their retirement home plans being thwarted and delayed. It also makes us nervous that this could happen to any resident despite all city codes being perfectly met and neighborhood feedback being carefully considered and satisfied to the greatest possible extent. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Reema, let's move to Mohammed Islam. So Mohammed Islam, we're gonna please unmute yourself as well.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Wang, for running this spirited discussion. And we are hearing different views. I really enjoyed it. And thanks for Erika and Pew to present the case and whole case very nice way. I appreciate it. That explained to us very well. I would like to make it very short because we are very late now. And let's try to make it very quick. So my couple of comments is, I think I support the new construction in this Cupertino. There are a lot of old buildings. We need to look forward. We need to bring out the new neighborhood, new look is good. And we need to look forward. And it will make the city pretty and attractive. And but at the same time, we definitely need to look after the neighbors' legitimate concerns, especially the privacy part. But I believe I got the things from Erica's presentations and others' comment also. It is being adequately being addressed. And I believe that if we comply with the rule, I think it will be a very good house. At the same time, I would say that as a residents of Cupertino City, I would be more flexible with the reality. I would say, actually, I will look into the new thing, what is the existing thing is there. That's not the best thing, maybe. There could be better things could be there, it's coming. And we should allow to build more beautiful houses in our community, complying with the rules and regulations. And I really appreciate Cupertino City to continue to help and uphold the rules and regulations and allow the residents to continue to build the new houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. For those following along, if you've got a comment to add, please raise your hand in Zoom. We will call you in order. Our next guest is Leon Shao. Leon, please provide your comments.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Leon. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm living in the just next to Chilong's house, 1503. You just asked this. So I do gave my concern on March, I think through email. My main concern is that the balcony, that privacy issue. So it can directly go to, look into my backyard. Yeah, that's my concern. Even you have this privacy planting, I don't think that can solve the issue to my backyard. Also, people normally put this privacy planting to protect their own privacy, but this plant is on the owner's side. I don't think that after several years they have motivation to maintain those plants. If those plants are not grow wild or died, nobody will, monitor that. So and we already passed this phase. So that's my concern. The privacy, you can have a bigger room, family. I'm okay, I understand, but this balcony is not solve your living space issue. It's just for your fun, and you based on the interfect other people's privacy. So it's not something you have to own. Yeah. Yeah, I think that one person mentioned you can move this balcony to the front side. Maybe that's a one good suggestion. So that, yeah, that's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leon. I noticed that we actually have hands raised from the panelists, so I apologize. I'm going to go to John. So give me a second as I pull him up here and get him on the digital dais. John?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, I lost video. It looked like I lost power here at the house, so I had to get another computer. Anyhow, I'm the designer on the project. And as far as second-story homes, I've seen a lot of changes in Cupertino. My parents moved here back in '69. And especially over at where Cupertino High School is, all those single-story houses are just about gone. And lots of two-story homes are put up where it was once single-story. To get back to the design, one note is that if you exclude the second unit dwelling, which complies with all the state regulations, the upper and lower floor is approximately 17 feet from the left side property line, if you got rid of. So they're farther over than is required for the main building. The back of the building, where the balcony is only 16 feet in width. So the bulk is quite less than some would think. And that goes all the way for about 33 feet. If we were to make it a single-story home on the same property, less the ADU, we would be, for the same amount of square footage, we would be over 300 square feet of the allowable coverage for that lot. Most people go with second stories because you don't have enough coverage allowed to you to do a single-story house. So you either have to go up or you go below. And going below is 3 times as much as going up, doing a full basement on that. Also, to make a point on the elevation grades, as Poppy is 5 feet less than what Primrose is, they're already in a hole. So if you do the planting and the balcony is about 9 feet where the second floor is, or 10 feet where the finished second floor is, you're about, 15 feet above. And with planting 9 feet or higher, you're not going to even see the backyards. Are you going to see?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Apologize, John. You're 3 minutes in, so we can.
Okay.
But I think we can ask you questions as well from the commission. So,
Okay.
Chairman Wang.
Yep, Jitesh.
I'm sorry, this is Jitesh. My neighbors, Greg Malensky and Joan Molesky at 1469 Poppy Way, wrote a very concise letter to Erica, and he did request that I read out the key items from it. I think it should only take 1 minute, if that's possible.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is from Greg Molesky and John Molesky at 1469 Poppy Way. Dear Sir, Madam, I believe the following, excuse me, let me start again. I believe that allowing us 2-story house on the east side of Primrose Way will destroy the backyard privacy of Poppy Way neighbors. Currently, neither neighbor can see beyond their backyard fence. This will not be the case if the Prim house whole is 2-story. By the way, the Moleskys have been here since the mid-60s. He continues to say, if a 2-story house is built on Primrose Way, its second story will be another 1/2 floor above Poppy Way backyard. even serving as a guardhouse tower, looking upon the yards of confrontational Poppyway neighbors with impunity. Another comment, planting trees will simply not work due to the utility lines and meeting the measures for the tree lengths as well. Sincerely, Greg Molesky and Joan Molesky. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments, any other hands raised. We'll turn back to the commission for their deliberation and any kind of other additional questions that they may have. Commissioners, anybody want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Great. Okay, so these are always tough things. So it seems like the big concerns of the neighbors are that the two-story house blocks the view of the mountains and privacy concerns from the balcony. So I did see that the height of the house, which legally can go up to 28 feet, has been reduced to, I believe it was 23 feet. So even with that 5 feet difference in the height of the land, it's still would be at 28 feet. So, we can't really, since there is no application for a general plan amendment or anything like that, we can't really deny it on that basis. The only reason that we have to uphold the appeal would be, is the proposed project harmonious in scale and design with the general neighborhood? So that's a pretty subjective decision we have to make. The big thing to me is the balcony, and we have run into this balcony issue over and over again, both in planning and in city council. And as Lisa Warren pointed out, it really needs to have some kind of an ordinance to address these balcony concerns. So my big concern here is really the balcony. We can't really do much about anything else because it's within the city code what they want to do. But the balcony, we have in the past required that balconies be made smaller or removed. So I'm just wondering what the feelings of the property owners that want to build the house, the cons, are in terms of modifying the balcony.
Okay. I can pose that question to the cons for a response if you're looking for that.
Yeah, I would like to hear that.
And then we'll get the Commissioner Capil. So, all right, go ahead. We'll mute the cons.
Yeah.
Yes. And the question to you is really what the purpose of the balcony. Why do you want a balcony? I think it's more down those lines. Would you be open to reducing the size of the balcony?
Yeah, and I'll point out that this came to City Council last year, a similar balcony issue, and the property owner did agree to change the balcony. Neither side was thrilled with the compromise, but it seemed to at least be a compromise.
Okay. So, yeah, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes.
We can do one thing. We can reduce the size if it's acceptable for the city. We can reduce the size of the balcony. That we can do.
And my question, Alex, we did the privacy plan, right? So that's the balcony, that's the city rules. We have to follow the rules, right? When it's not me only, I have so many friends build the house in Cupertino, and this is the city rules. If you do the privacy plan, that's why we hired the landscape design to draw the privacy plan, right? If I did the privacy plan, then why I cannot do the balcony? So that's my question too. And so it's like I'm maintaining the city rules.
And
right?
Also, like if you see that one, we are not came here like last year or 2 years and building a new building. We are living here 16 years.
16 years.
And all the neighborhood then knows we don't have any issue. And I show you the backyard tree. You cannot see even there is a 4-story building there.
And we are full-time worker, and it's not like only new to us. And another thing is, is there no city rules or regulation or something like we have to respect each other neighbor, right? It's not like balcony or window or tree or nothing. So only thing we have to respect each other, honor each other, then it's going to be better, the privacy. That's the main thing I think we need.
Yeah, we'll try to reduce the size of the balcony if it is okay for the city.
Well, let me jump in and ask a few questions to staff real quick. And I did walk through. I did have a understanding. I think the average PG&E utility pole is somewhere between 40 and 45 feet, if that's correct. The trees that we saw there for staff that have been out there, the trees were up to about 40 feet. I would say 35 to 40 feet. I think some of those plantings. Erica, is that true? Pio, is that true? Have you guys seen that?
Based on the pictures that we've seen, those plantings are pretty tall.
Those plantings are pretty tall, and so the question is, and this is just to the cons. Like this, I mean, I'm not telling you to go do this or not, but honestly, I'd rather look at a sunset in the front than I'd look at to the east side. But that's a whole different problem. But the way the balcony is structured and the way the size of the balcony is structured today, if I were to imagine myself looking over there, I don't think I'd see anything but the privacy screening and the trees. So you're really just looking at the trees, which is like another wall. Is that what staff sees as well? I mean, if you're to model this out, like they're looking basically into trees, and depending on the density of the tree line, that's the privacy factor here. Like if I put like 10 cypress trees like right there and blocked it all out, I'd only see trees. Is that what you would see? And this is to Pew or Erica. You guys are on mute, so.
No, I wanted to unmute myself. I just wanted to say one thing. The intent of the privacy screening fees is to provide partial screening within 3 years. The intent of it is not to have a wall of trees. That's the intent of the R1 ordinance as it stands. So there might be some partial views of the mountains on the other side of the valley. That's
got it. I mean, you won't want the private screen to take away the views from the other neighborhood either, right? That's the main point. Right, so they can still see views, but there's still some privacy screening that's kind of in play. But given the heights that are there from standing there, I what I'm seeing is like there's screenage that's going on already.
All the way.
Yeah, is it just beauty? It's not like
So, okay, but yes, so that's the point. I just wanted to ask staff where that was the case. Okay, Commissioner Capil, is there any other questions you have? So sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Pio, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add a little, I wanted to characterize the reduction in the scale of the last balcony that the council had asked for a reduction in. My understanding was that particular balcony was pretty close to 400 square feet, and that was reduced down to 160 square feet, if I'm not mistaken, thereabouts. This particular balcony is a little shy of 160 feet as it stands right now. So I just wanted to offer that as a comparison to the commission as well.
So you're saying the reduction had already occurred, and that's what's been going on at this moment?
No, I was talking about the other appeal that
right.
Mark mentioned. That one.
This is for the other one in Monte Vista. Yeah, that was different. Yeah, that was a much bigger balcony. That was more of a party deck.
Correct. And in this case, the depth of the balcony is already only 9 feet. In that case, the depth of that balcony, I think, was limited to either 10 or 12 feet, and I can't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, the lot's only 50 feet wide,
that.
so
yeah.
I understand. The lot's only 50 feet wide on that. So, okay. Commissioner Capil, any questions on your end?
Yeah, the tree screening is kind of, because I had a personal experience in my backyard, I had to get that tree trimmed many times actually, because sometimes it will take away the Comcast cables, sometimes it will cause a PG&E cables problems. So over and over again, where the tree grows, and then you have to kind of call somebody to trim it so that it doesn't really go within the wires. So that is a practical issue you need to address. And second thing is, the neighbor has a complaint about privacy. Now the tree is on your side of the thing. So it is up to you to to keep that screen intact as it grows, or you trim it, or whatever happens. So I would think that if it is the location of the balcony can be moved to a different, like the side of the house, probably that would solve most of the concerns on the privacy at least. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from the commissioners? Any other questions? Okay. I guess we will see if there's a motion in any way to either approve or deny. Anyone have a motion to make?
I don't.
Tough one, isn't it?
I'm just so torn because of the wording in our code regarding harmonious in scale and design, because I don't believe it is.
I think the challenge we have right now is we have transitional neighborhoods at the moment, right? And every neighborhood, I live in Rancho Rinconada, and back to, I guess, Mr. Field's point, I mean, I would say at this point, 60% of Rancho has now been redeveloped, right, to two-story or a modern home or something that's been changed. And it's been interesting. So, and I think the two-story ordinance originally was set up in a way to kind of respect a balance between privacy and people's ability to move or grow into their homes. And so I think those ordinances were set into play. I agree with you, Vice Chair Scharf, that it is a challenge, right? Everything meets municipal code, right? It meets municipal code except for the harmonious element. And I think that is a challenge. And we do have to relook at some point into balconies and privacy shields as Lisa Warren mentioned. I think that's been on our work plan for a while. But given the current situation and given where we are at this moment, I am curious to hear, what Commissioner Kapil you feel or what you see, Commissioner Scharf, as well.
Yeah, it's tough to see, and because the reason is that quite a few neighbors' concerns are somewhat genuine, in the sense that maybe we can live with the size and the magnitude of the house, but probably the question comes to the balcony, and that is something it's difficult to decide on this.
Well, I think the issue is I'd like to ask staff in terms of the privacy screening if there are any other ways to mitigate. My guess is, I mean, when I looked at the plans, when I look at what we have, right, the house is no more than 28 feet high, right? The balcony, when placed, will probably be somewhere between, if you're standing on there, you'll probably be about 22 feet up. And the utility poles and the privacy shield at this moment are sitting at somewhere between 40 feet. Is that correct?
The balcony should be between, about 14 to 15 feet higher than the backyards of the neighbors.
Correct, but when you're standing above, you're at about 18 to 20 feet height.
Correct, when you'll be about 18 to 20 feet, correct. So, the trees that they have selected will provide adequate screening. If you think about the balconies, the fence line at that place will also prevent views into the backyards themselves. If you look at a view shed, it will clip that because the properties are lower. And then the trees will provide, partial obstruction of the views into the backyard.
So I want to flip this around too, though. So let's say on Mr. Lynn's property, he sells it, and the neighbor decides to knock it down and build a two-story unit across the board. What do we do with privacy screening in that scenario? Right? Let's say they want a balcony that looks towards the west and sees beautiful sunsets from his property line. How would we address that?
So there are one of two things. Again, one is they would plant the privacy trees as required per the code, or they could go and talk to the cons and basically, explain that, look, we're looking at your privacy trees. We can't really see much, and Mr. Khan could get a waiver. Could sign a waiver for those neighbors. In this particular case, I understand that the neighbors on the left and the right have signed, north and south, have signed waivers for this particular project. So that is also an option.
Right. I do understand that.
And the waivers are the north and south, but the north and south isn't really the issue here. It's
east.
The east.
No, I understand that. I was just saying. It's just similar to that process, is all I was suggesting.
Yeah, but that's the interesting thing. Like, so for example, like there's if Mr. Lin decides to build a 2-story home that will look straight into their balcony, right? You know, we would go through the same process, right? Right. So they would have to put, Mr. Lin would have to put a privacy screening on his end, or the cons and Mr. Lin would actually have to have an agreement as to how they want to address that scenario. And that's, you know, as we get to 2 stories across the board, or 2 stories across most of the neighborhoods, we're probably going to come into this kind of scenario. So
And that happens frequently, yes.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we have a policy at some point to think about that as we're thinking about this specific issue, so that we can kind of address something in a broader sense in the future.
So, Mr. Chair, you know, I'm reading the R1 ordinance here on my screen, and so apparently we need 4 things, and some of them we have. It does comply with the general plan. It's not going to be cause any danger. But the last item I'm looking at, it says adverse visual impact on adjoining properties have been reasonably mitigated. So are these the visual, you know, is it a visual impact just in terms of privacy, or is it a visual impact that you will lose your view that you had in the past? You know, in this case, you know, are you losing a view of the, you know, the mountains and hills in the west?
So if I may address that.
Sure, thank you.
The purpose of the R1 ordinance is pretty clear in that it says there is, it's the provision of light, air, and a reasonable level of privacy to individual residential parcels, but it is not necessarily about views from your property.
Okay, because what I'm reading, it says, well, yeah, visual impacts. What does visual impact mean? View, or what is, you know, how is visual impact defined?
It's subjective, but certainly views from your property are not part of that particular discussion. And again, you know, this is one home. There are several homes that do get developed, and this has been the standard that the city has used, that views from your property are not necessarily protected, because it would mean that, you know, nobody could have a 2-story home, or even in some cases a 1-story home could impact views.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that reading. Any other questions? This is going to be interesting. Okay, we have to put a motion on the table here. So.
Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
So, all right, well, either way, if I put a positive motion, you guys can vote it down. If I put a negative motion, you can vote it towards the other direction. I'm going to go with what the staff has at the moment to propose. I propose a motion that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolutions in attachment 1 and 2, find the proposed actions exempt from CEQA, and deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision to approve the 2-story permit and the minor residential permit. This will kickstart the conversation and the discussion. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, cool. Now we can debate.
Okay. Yeah, I am still, you know, I'm still weighing this. I don't think we have any legal reasons to uphold the appeal, though.
No, I'm with you on that. I do agree that that's the challenge. I'm just trying to figure out how to create, if there's any kind of way that we can create a neighborly action to address.
I would love to see that, but, you know, I did ask if they were willing to, you know, modify the balcony, and someone else suggested moving it, which to me would make sense, because in the front you get lovely views, in the back you don't get much of anything. But it's
kind of hard based on their blueprint and design.
Yeah.
If you look at the RM, it's kind of hard for them to put a balcony. It wouldn't work for the current plan.
Well, no, not for the current plan. It would be a redesign.
For the current plan. They have to scrap that plan to be able to redo it, which is the challenge. Yeah, it's we're in deliberation. I don't know, Commissioner Kapil, what do you think? So,
my concern is primarily not the aesthetics or moving balcony or around, is just that you can't overrule people around in that community, and kind of when they have they have concerns of privacy. So if you do not address them by some kind of a ordinance or some kind of a logical way, just because current it meets the code and it doesn't bring in the harmony of approving it, because there are a lot of people who are objecting to it. So it's a difficult situation. That's all I can say.
Yeah, my challenge is really around property rights versus privacy, right? That's kind of where we are. You know, by limiting, here's a challenge. By limiting what a property owner can build beyond what's in the municipal code, what we're basically telling other property owners is that they don't have that freedom to build to what the law has. And that's the challenge. And that means we have to fix the law somewhere on our end in terms of the municipal code. The issue of privacy to me is I'm very sensitive to that as well, in the sense that we need to make sure that, you know, the privacy provisions we put into play actually address the changing development conditions that are actually happening. I would imagine in that neighborhood, in the next 5 to 10 years, developers will be coming through and doing redevelopment. So it might not just be neighbors that have been there for 20 years that want to expand on their homes. And so that's my sensitivity here, is trying to balance that, as everybody here has been trying to do. I would go back to the appellant and I ask Mr. Lin a question, and I ask you to unmute here. Is the question that do you have visions of, in the future, trying to expand your property or build up, or to take advantage of your property to expand it potentially for a multi-generational household, or potentially to add your ADU as well? Because the decisions and the concerns that you have also impact your future property rights in terms of how that's treated, as well as other property owners from that point of view. And so I understand the direct and immediate privacy concerns. What I'm trying to understand is, do you have future plans to potentially develop, and may potentially you know, want to ask your neighbors in the future to say, hey, I might need a 2-story house here, and how would I go about that?
Thank you to give me this opportunity. That currently I don't have that plan. But
okay, and can you speak up? Sorry, you're coming in very soft.
Okay.
So.
And currently I don't have the plan to do any changes on my house, and we are in the stage where we are planning for our retirement, and this will be our retirement house. And and I really appreciate that the Mrs. Kong that have been communicating with us, but unfortunately, right, I think that some of the communication with her workers is not very smoothly. So we really cannot get agreement that what would be the more compromised way that we can accomplish. But thank you for all the commissioner that give us opportunity. That privacy is our biggest concern, and also that I appreciate that the people put all the information together. But I think that what we want is that we can appreciate your right to have a house to accommodate the whole family. But I think that, as you mentioned, that the chairman, that our privacy, hopefully, right, you can also put into consideration that we're going to be live here for a long time, and even the 3 years are going to be a burden to us.
Okay. Anyone else? Deliberation. Thank you, Mr. Lin. So we have a motion on the table. I guess we're gonna have to call for a vote if there's no other deliberation. And all right, we're gonna call for a vote. Are you guys ready? You have all your questions answered? All right, Abby, please do call for the vote.
Commissioner Capil?
Can I abstain?
You can. You're not going to help us. Yeah, it's such a tough call. But
so. Yeah. I mean, after listening all the comments from so many people, I cannot vote for it.
We can one thing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Actually, we can't have comments, and just question, Steph, we can't have comments in the middle of the vote, can we?
You should complete the vote, and but just I'll note that if this is denied, you'll rather if this motion does not pass, you'll have to end up making another motion anyway for clarity on what you're actually
approving or not approving.
Or denying.
Correct.
So you complete this vote, and then if the applicant wants to speak, you can choose to let them.
We'll bring them back in. Okay, so we'll make sure we're following the right procedure here. Okay, go ahead. Abby, please continue the vote.
Vice Chair Scharf,
Aye.
Chair Wong,
I'm going to vote aye.
2, 1,
201, I think.
2, 1, 2 absent.
No, 210.
abs-
I got 2. So.
All right, 2012. What is the actual rule? I mean, do you need a majority of the planning commissioners or just a majority of those present? Or
Present.
What? Okay.
No, I'm asking. I don't know either. I just want to know what.
Yeah,
what
Seth can answer that.
So.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. It's a great question. So, but I thought I heard Commissioner Capil give a no vote.
He gave a no vote. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. He did give a no. It was
2-1-0-2.
Right.
So. All right. So we're going to take some time. I think our deputy city attorney is going to double check on the parliamentary rules here and make sure.
No. The question was.
Does the motion carry?
The question was hypothetical because we did not have an abstention. I think that was
right. Okay. So it's just a majority of those presidents, not a majority of the planning commission.
Correct. The motion failed.
Okay.
Yeah.
The motion failed? The motion passed.
Passed.
2 ayes, 1 nay.
2 ayes and 1 nay.
Zero abstentions.
Fail?
And the motion was to uphold.
To uphold the
appeal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The appeal.
You're right. Yes. Thank you. Sorry for causing confusion.
Oh no, not at all. I just want to make sure we're not doing anything wrong here. Make sure we have the right outcome. So
majority of present. Yes, that is
majority of present.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
Okay. So the translation here is then we've upholded that element there. And then is there any more comments that we putting? This is more from the process perspective.
No. Oh, sorry. If you want to go ahead.
If I might ask a clarifying question, my understanding was, Commissioner Wong, that you made the motion to go with the staff recommendation.
Correct. We want the motion to go with the staff recommendation,
So
which is to deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision to approve the two-story.
I just wanted clarification.
But we need clarification there. I understand what happened there.
Yeah, no, I think to recap, sorry for all the confusion. Yes, you have 3 members present. You had a majority vote on a motion to uphold the approval.
Okay, so for everybody following this, we have found that the proposed actions are exempt from CEQA. We have denied the appeal and uphold the director's decision to approve the 2-story permit, and is a vote of 2-1. So that's the recap.
Okay. And what are the appellant's options now? Obviously they are not happy with this decision. Can they appeal to the city council or what?
I can help answer that. Yes, they have 14 days to appeal this decision to the city council.
Okay.
Okay. So they have one more step so that they can appeal through to the city council. Understood. Okay. Okay.
That's really good to know, Chairman Wang, because we will be appealing.
Okay. So
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Okay. We'll move everyone back to the participants section. Is there any old business we need to cover? All right. No old business, no new business. Any staff and commission reports? I'll start with the Commissioner Capil. I'll go to Vice Chair Scharf.
There are no staff reports.
Okay. Commissioner Capil, any staff reports, commission reports? Sorry.
No.
All right. Vice Chair Scharf, any commission reports? Meetings attended?
Yeah, I've continued to attend the California Alliance of Local Electeds Sunday calls, very good calls. We always have a state senator or state assembly person on the call discussing many of the laws coming forward in the legislature, and a lot of affordable housing groups have weighed in on opposing SB 9 and 10, and we will see what happens going forward. I know Cupertino has weighed in, the League of California Cities has weighed in against it, and we'll see what transpires in the future. And that's
Great.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, I've also been attending these meetings. I think for the public, it's important to understand that there's a difference between market rate housing and affordable housing. And many cities have woken up to understanding what they can do on housing affordability, as opposed to just building market rate housing, which is, we have quite a good supply of that, but not necessarily a good supply of affordable housing. And I think for those watching these housing bills that are in place, I've also been attending these California CALE meetings. I think it's important for people to understand what's going on in the housing debates that are out there that affect local planning and local control. So something very important to look at. Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn. Actually, any new business, any proposed items? I think we took that off the agenda, but that was something that we keep. Any potential proposed elements that we might add to the agenda, like this ordinance?
Right, like the balcony, like
a balcony ordinance.
Yeah, something about balconies. I think we need to look into, and then there's other proposals for new agenda items that were made in the past that I have not seen on the agenda yet.
Yep. So the telecommunications
Yes.
in terms of our 5G poles and how we look at it from an aesthetic perspective by zones. I know council's put that onto the work plan items, and hopefully we can get started on that. This is an urgent issue, and I would repeat, a very urgent issue. Neighbors are starting to complain as they're being noticed in small batches, and for those following, we really do need to get this out there, and so we should have a conversation with City Council so that they can talk to the interim city manager to reprioritize this. So I think that's on my list as well. So I'll take a look into that.
So I think I will second Sharp's proposal about balcony thing. It's very important and it comes all the time. And I personally think that tree screening and all that, those proposals are not really scientific and kind of addressing privacy concerns. So the planning, it should be actually addressed using ordinance and not a subjective kind of a way we just discussed. So that is something should be hashed out in future.
Okay, we'll leave that on the list of items. I'll work with Pew on the staff side to see when we can schedule those and get those onto the agenda along with council and city manager approval. So, okay. With that, we are here to adjourn the June 22nd City of Cupertino Planning Commission meeting. Thank you for attending, and please join us for the next meeting in 2 weeks.